Hi, everybody. This is Susan Clinton, and I'm here with my co-host, Erica Mello. This is the intro to our fall season of Tough to Treat. We'll be starting off with episode number 227. It's hard to believe we're at episode 227, Erica.
No, it's crazy. Oh my God. That's a lot of episodes, Susan. A lot.
I know we've had a lot of comments about when are you going to be back and what's going on. And, we had a busy summer, and like everybody else, there are times and seasons of people's lives where we need to back up, take a break, make sure we're getting good content together, come back together. And, that was one of those times. America has had some initiatives that she's been working on, as have I. We're glad to be back together, and we're going to be bringing you let's see, I think we've got 5 episodes planned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planned for this
Through the beginning of December.
for this fall season, and then we'll be back again in January with our winter season. So
Yep.
decided to put this into seasons to give our listeners really good content, but to also give us some much needed time to do
Yep.
some of the other initiatives we have going on in our own lives and practices and professions as well.
Yes, yes. And
So
we think of it like a TV show where TV shows go on hiatus for a little bit. And I think that makes it us all the more eager to do this.
yes, to
You know,
return with fresh
to return.
thoughts and fresh ideas and
Yes,
fresh things. So
yes.
you can still find us on our website,
Yep.
um,
Toughtotreat.com.
www.toughtotreat.com. You can always leave us information there. And you can find, if you put in keyword searches, as we've said before, you can find some podcasts that might speak to you. We have like 226 on there right now. So there's lots of content, lots of information, and we're glad for those that are loyal listeners, that you have found us and that you're enjoying the work. And also for anybody who's new, welcome. There's a plethora of information to go back and listen to and find things that work for you. So we've got a new podcast coming up. Enjoy the podcast, and we will see you as we move forward in this season. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Clinton, one of the co-hosts of Tough to Treat, and I'm here with my great partner, Erica Mello. Welcome back, Erica.
Welcome back, Susan. Oh my gosh, time has flown.
It has. It has.
It really
Okay,
has.
we're gonna start
Let's
off
do it.
this season with a client of mine that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. It's kind of an interesting person. This gentleman is in his young 60s. Has been just a massive blue collar worker for a long time in many different industries, but heavy industry, and has had a real bad situation with his knee for a while. So this is back when I've pulled my stuff up to talk about him so that we could, because I think it's relevant. When we last left off on one of our podcasts, we were talking about overloading sides of the body that actually were having issues.
Yeah.
So this one came up to mind to me to kind of refresh and bring back up with timelines and some different things here that we've talked about before. Anyway, he has been evaluated for a total knee replacement on the right, but he is having some issues with some bone in his lower femur not being vascularized enough that they don't feel they can successfully put a stem in. So they have, wanted him to really bump up conservative care and do the best he can. And then they were going to re-MRI him, as they kind of go along. So just to let you know kind of how he presented, when you just look at him anthropometrically, he is somebody that almost you would have to kind of say is a kind of a poor investment for his lower quarter compared to his upper quarter. He's has a large bony frame, and a very thick chest wall, shoulder, neck, just a, big boned, strong upper body on top of very slender hips and legs.
Yeah.
Very strong. He's not overweight. He's just, but you can see that he's balancing kind of a stronger upper body, over, like I say, slender legs, slender hips.
Mhm.
Um, just in time, a lot of pain has been to see different healthcare providers. He lives in Canada, and I'm on the Canadian border now, and by friends and pleading, he came over to see me. So
Mhm.
anyway, a super nice guy. Um, when I asked him, I just sat down with him before I even looked at him, and I just wanted to get the timeline. Obviously, there's been years and years and years and years of heavy work, heavy lifting, living in, camps in the bush where they, chop down everything and do everything, just outdoor living at its best, hunting and fishing and just, good and heavy work. So there's always going to be musculoskeletal injuries.
Mhm.
But what we did was we traced it back to what we felt were the most significant over the last 10 years. So 3 years before, um, so actually, this is over 7 years. So the very beginning thing that he feels like, what was relevant, what was pertinent? Tell me about the things that really started slowing you down, or you think may have even led to all of this. And he goes, well, I don't know how much things mean, but he said, so we started talking about 7 years ago. There was a significant issue with his right shoulder and his neck that really had a lot of radicular pain into the arm. It took a long time to recover from. After that, he had problems with his left elbow, which kind of persists back and forth to this day a
Mhm.
little bit. He said, I can feel that if I tweak my forearm just a little bit funny, or if I'm doing a rotational thing, sometimes it'll get me.
Mhm.
And, more of like the kind of what you would consider, you know, uh, C5, tennis elbowy kind of thing. Obviously not
Mhm.
tennis elbow, but just that part of the forearm, and with gripping and over gripping and certain gripping, but has gotten much, much better. About 3 years later, he developed, well, 4, 3 years later, 3 years later, yes, actually had a strong chemical exposure
Oh.
to some toxins in a plant. And I don't know, so I asked him about it and I said, what's going on with that? And he goes, I don't know. I just thought it might be relevant because it did make us all, he said, I had some changes, like he was just like, I kind of fatigued, he's kind of one of these people that kind of laughs things off. And it's like, so I
Mhm.
dug in a little bit more and he said, all of us kind of felt bad for a while. We did all that. They did all the hazmat cleanup and all of the things, but, there was that exposure. So I just marked that down because I think when we're talking about musculoskeletal chronic injuries, and we have to be talking about the immune system, and particularly neuroimmune
Yeah.
and immune system of the tissues themselves.
Yeah.
So I felt that this was kind of important here. So I wrote it down on the timeline. A year later, he started developing left foot pain. Unknown reason, insidious. I didn't injure it. It just started hurting. It hurt up the back of my calf, kind of like heel pain, and kind of continued on for a while. It started getting better, but then he got into a massive situation of right-sided sciatica.
Okay.
Just down the back of he could point right into his glute area where it really hurt, and kind of the side of the leg and the back of the leg, and having to sit to drive long, an hour and a half to his work site and back, just really, really, really suffering pretty bad from that.
Mhm.
It eventually started getting a lot better. And then one day at the work site, he said he noticed that he was having trouble with his knee. And over the next week, he got to the point where he couldn't even put weight on his knee anymore.
Wow.
So and that was about a year before I saw him.
Okay.
And that has gone up and down. He's seen many people, probably some care that wasn't as good as other care, and just really hasn't been able to get any relief. He and his wife were quite resourceful and saw some other people. He saw a couple of body workers. They, because he said, because my calves are so tight, they gave me a Theragun and told me to use it. So he uses that. And I said, do you like it? And he goes, I do. And I said, do you think it helps? And he goes, I don't know, but it feels good. Right. I'm in, right?
Yeah,
I'm in.
totally.
Don't take anything away. I'm in.
Exactly.
So, and it's overall, he says it's gotten a lot better because he doesn't have any more swelling. He was treated for gout, and he said, I didn't have gout. I told him I didn't have gout, but they treated me for gout anyway. So he said, I did that for about a month and quit that. And, this, just kind of like the story of like, I just need to be heard. And they finally did an MRI, which is where they found the vascular, problem with the lower bone and the lower part of the bone on the medial femur side.
Hmm.
And it gave the doc pause, because he was like, I really do think that there's a lot of breakdown into your joint, and that a total knee, is going to be warranted. And he was like, I would really like to put this off if I don't have to. And and anyway, just having a lot of discussion about quality of life and things like that. And I said, no matter what, if we can get you moving better and stronger and feeling better, even if you need to go towards a surgical solution, you're going to be way better off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's the story. When you look at the guy and he stands, you can see him completely loaded on the right side,
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
completely loaded on the right side. And so I asked the question, I said, did you use a cane? Do you use a cane? He goes, when it really hurts, I do. And I said, what hand do you put it in?
What did he say? The right side?
Right side. Or then he goes, I put it on the wrong side, didn't I? It's like, I said, let me just show you the picture. Like, a picture makes 1,000 words. So I took a picture of him and
Yep.
I said, this is the thing. See, you're completely loaded on the side that hurts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said, I wonder, did he start getting a thoracic driver with the right-sided shoulder problem? Has he always had a thoracic driver and the right-sided shoulder problem was a setup for this? It's kind of like what started it, what keeps him there. The
Right.
left foot is definitely what kept him there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the sciatica, but the left foot hurts. So the sciatica, and the
It was
whole
like
thing.
left, right, left, right. Yep.
Right. And so we talked a little bit. I just kind of like put it into language that he could understand. And I said, you have these joints and where you have joints and anything mechanical. If something isn't working, what happens to the one underneath it? And he goes, it breaks. And I said, so your knee isn't broken, but I said, what's happening is it's taking all of the effect of your trunk not moving well. And so that there's, when you're standing on it all the time, so you can imagine what's happening with the torquing that's going on at the knee.
Yeah, and its implications for loading, right?
Yeah, exactly. His feet, toes were curled, very tight feet, very tight, over recruiting gastroc muscles, some neural tension issues. You could just see that in him and his hands and in his feet. Just just like you just know his neural tension system is high. I had him stand with his feet closer together. He even went off to the right further. We brought the feet further apart. He straightened up a bit. So it's like, there's probably some neural tension in there too.
Yeah.
But first things first, let's see what we can figure out here. So I had him walk, and I could see that he was like, it hurt, but he could do it. I mean, he walked fairly well, but boy, those feet were just tight. You could just like no shock attenuation whatsoever. And and I had him bend over, tightness of course, but nothing bothered his back or the sciatica, so that was good. And then I had him stand on one leg, and of course when he tried to stand on the right leg, he was already shifted way off to the right,
Yeah.
and then he couldn't hold the pelvis. He could stand on the left, um but he felt like he was more unbalanced on the left than
It
he
was
was
not
right.
surprising. He doesn't
Right.
use it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, so like, but I said, but you never stand on your left foot,
Exactly. Yeah.
so of course it feels like you have less balance. You feel like you have more balance on the right, but it really bothers you and you can't, and it's harder to hold.
Yeah.
So, and I said, so we just need to shift this. So took pictures and showed it and everything. So my first hypothesis was we've got some strength deficiencies in the pelvis, hip, and pelvis region. And, part of it has probably been kicked off by this low back pain. Is it a true weakness? I don't
Yeah.
know, but it might be an inhibition.
Yeah.
So got him on the table. Reflexes are all good. Checked, for muscle strength and stuff, and definitely a deficit in the the right. hip abductors,
Yeah.
and even so much, in the glute on the right side compared to the left, just a bit.
Yeah.
Enough that when he stands up and he has more pain, he can't hold that pelvis.
No.
So I just decided we're just gonna do a little bit of like treatment as assessment. So since I had him on his left side and I was testing the right side anyway, I just got him in position and did some easy lumbar gapping and a little lumbar, thoracic rotation.
Mhm.
Just treating the lumbar spine a little
Right
bit.
line. Yeah.
Yeah, just getting a little, manual therapy in there to see if that changed anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, I taught him how to do it on his own, and I said, "Oh, stand up." And when he stood up, he could stand. He could actually hold his pelvis better.
He was more, was he more centered? He was more
Yeah,
centered.
more
Yeah.
centered. He could,
Yeah.
and when he stood on the right leg, he didn't shift over as much. He could actually stay in center a bit better. So,
Yeah.
so I thought, okay, we've got something here to work with.
Yep.
He said,
Yep.
so biggest issue here is that when he had all of that happen, he's got some muscle discoordination over time,
Yeah.
to the muscles, particularly of the right hip region. And the body's been overloading the right side, especially the right leg, in order to balance the system around this muscle discoordination, plus getting off the pain from the left. This
Mhm.
is how I talked with him and worked with him. Then
Yep.
we added the use of the cane in the right hand, which further shifted the body to the right, over the right leg,
Mm.
increasing compressive forces into the knee rather than alleviating those forces like he was trying to do with the cane. So the
Yeah.
cane was actually increasing the forces even though he could
Exactly.
glide onto his arm, and it was feeding into that thoracic driver that I
Yeah.
didn't
Right.
even bother to test for because you could just see it.
I
You
mean,
know,
I
that
exactly.
whole
Yeah.
thorax is like shifted to the right and up, on the right side. And of course,
Yeah.
remember the shoulder and neck problem he had 7
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
So basically what we did was we started this off and I talked to him in the way that we talk a lot about, like what's the timeline? Why is that important?
Mhm.
And, this is like we've got some discoordination from a while that we need to deal with. But, you change so fast with this one movement that you're going to be able to move across the way, pretty well. It's not like it's not hopeless or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I basically, told him, I said, standing on one leg is a test exercise for you.
Yeah.
You stand on one leg, you feel yourself shift all the way off, you're in trouble. We were going to set you up on some exercises to do to get you back.
Yeah. It's like his self-check. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a self-tech or so the reset exercise, talking to him in his day, this guy isn't going to really lay down to do exercises, right?
Right.
He's just not.
No.
So I told him, I said, if for some reason you're waking up in the morning and you want to do something, you can put a TheraBand around your knees and do some, uh, you know,
Abduction.
yeah,
Yeah.
abduction with the knees bent, feet on the bed.
Yep.
I said, that's up to you. Or you can I showed him how to do it in sitting. So everything I gave him was in sitting or standing because that was what he was going to do.
Yeah.
I knew it. I could tell by the way he was talking.
Yeah.
And, he's just not going to go take time.
Yeah. I know. It's human nature.
And so, I'll get into this on the second part of the treatment in just a minute. But, so I gave him, doing the trunk rotation like we did on the bed. I said, you
Yep.
can do that laying in bed before you get up in the morning. Just, roll over on your left side and roll that right side backwards 3 or 4 times, kind of just give your spine a little love,
Yeah. And so
before you
just
get up.
that left, so just inside lying left you gave to him,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Because we're
Okay.
just opening up that right side
Yeah.
of the lumbar spine, just kind of again. I
Yeah.
just said, just give your spine a little love, let it get a little bit more mobility in there. And
Hmm.
I was hoping that maybe that would help his, trunk piece a little bit, but trying to get into the whole trunk piece would be like, that's going to be down the road a little bit when we need to get in and decompress that somewhat. And then, he has the sitting with the TheraBand around the thighs and pulling his legs in and out. And then standing, he does it with the TheraBand around his legs, moving into a little external rotation and back, keeping his big toe on the ground so that he's not coming up onto the side of his foot, and then doing some monster walks.
Hmm. Yep.
So, and go for it. And then I spent a lot of time with him, helping him learn how to let his toes go long and be soft, long and be soft, long and be soft. And then, if he didn't, and that he was to avoid pain with the exercises, that I don't want him to exercise into pain, that these are designed to help you feel better. So, and continue using the Theragun. You like it? It's great. And I said, but here's the reason your calves are so tight is because your nervous system is telling those muscles to tighten up so that your knee will not go into a straight position
Yeah.
because it
So
hurts when
it
you
hurts.
straighten your knee all the way up. It
Yeah.
hurts. So
Yeah.
he wants to be a little bit slightly bent. So
Yeah.
it's going to take us a little time to do that, but go ahead and use the Theragun because I thought we're going to have to do neural tension the next time with him. But I just wanted to see what was going to stick with this guy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because he's just one of these people you never know if you're kind of getting in, like
Yeah.
are you with me here? And so I kept asking him, you know, about relevance, like, is this something like would you tell me if you would do this or not? Because if you're not going to do it, I'm not going to give it to you.
Right.
We're not going to play the game of I shoulda, woulda, coulda. I said, I
Mhm.
want to know what you will do, what
Yeah.
you found valuable today, and what
Mhm.
you will do. So he said, I really don't want to use the cane, but I know I need something. So I pulled out my trekking sticks. I put it in his hands.
Yeah.
I said, just if you don't want to take both, put it in your left hand. And immediately he was loading more on the left side,
Yeah.
is what I wanted. He was back into the center.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
said,
No.
Matt, so, and he goes, I think this would help if I remember to grab it when I'm walking on uneven surfaces.
Yep. Yep.
I said, well, that's probably a lot of the time, right? And he goes, he kind of laughed and said, yes. And I said, use it as much as you can,
Mm.
just go for it.
Yep.
And let's see what goes on. So he softened his feet. I gave him the sticks. I told him if he was going to use the cane to use it only on the left side. But I said, you're way too young to be leaning over on a cane, hobbling around like that. Use a stick. I said, you're out in the bush all the time. Go find yourself a nice piece of driftwood and fancy it up and
Yeah.
carry it along, like a Moses stick. And so anyway, and that's kind of where we left it. And flash forward here a little bit. I brought him back a month later, and I was, I was kind of like, okay, I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but let's just see what happened. The biggest things that appealed to him was softening his feet. He
Mm.
spent more time listening to himself walking when he had it, because he's one of these people that when he gets back into his house, he takes his shoes off at the front door and he walks around barefooted all the time.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, or he wears his Birkenstocks.
Yeah.
And so he said he paid really close attention to his feet. And you could tell when he was walking how much softer his feet looked, but how much more shock attenuation was
Mhm.
happening. It just wasn't this stiff, hard banging that was going on the ground. He was
Shooting right up the leg.
able to stand on one leg easier.
Yep.
He loved the monster walks and the exercises in standing. And he said, I do the ones in sitting sometimes, but mostly I do them in standing.
Mm.
So he picked up about 75% of what we talked about. And he does use the stick when he remembers it. And he goes, when I don't remember it, but he goes, when I remember it, it helps.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then here's what was interesting. He said, the other day, there's been a couple of instances, but I didn't understand. And he said, one day we had to go, let's see, this was the one to the hospital was one of them, to see a friend. And I just had the hardest time walking in there. I had all kinds of pain. My kneecap was freezing up. It was really hurting. I couldn't understand it.
Mm.
And I said, what do you think about that? He goes,
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe I just didn't want to go to the hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I didn't say anything. I said, I think that's fair. And then he said, but here's the other thing. He goes, we had to go shopping or something, and he didn't want to do it. And he said, that thing hurt the whole time I was there.
So interesting.
I
Yeah.
said, so I told him, I said, what do you think is the key thing there? And he goes, either I bring my sticks with me when I do things I don't want to do, or it's gonna hurt.
Oh, very perceptive. It's not that complicated.
Maybe I'll just tell people I can't do it, because I don't want to. It's like, anyway, I said it is funny because I said this has been going on for such a long time that sometimes, when we feel like it was a nice, easy surface to walk on, but why was it bothering us? It doesn't make
Yeah,
any sense, which is kind of like how, pain goes. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense. Sometimes it does.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so anyway, what I did the next time with him when I saw him was we really started chasing down some neural tension work.
Mhm.
I wanted him to keep doing what he was doing. I added in, lower quarter neural tension work with him to do in sitting and standing. So
Like
leaning
what?
over and putting his hands on a chair and
Yep.
let his knees bend and straighten them up,
So
things like that.
alternating like knee flexion, knee extension in a forward bend
Exactly,
position.
sitting and
Yep.
painting. I talked to him, I said, use your feet like they're paintbrushes up and down the wall, bring them
Yep.
up, bring them down, and then I didn't even add the head onto it. It's like, keep it simple. And
Yep.
then,
Yep.
of course, the stride, standing in stride and, kind of working the system that way a little bit.
Yes. Right stance. Yep.
And I told him, I said, and then the one thing I did give him was the neural tension with one leg up on the bed and the other leg down, so he could sit up straight. And I told him, just
Mhm.
after you do the Theragun, because he's already sitting on the couch to do the Theragun.
So wait, say that again, Susan. I'm trying to get the image in my head.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the side sitting. You put one leg straight on the bed.
Yep.
So you sit with your right leg on the bed and your left foot on the floor.
Oh, got it. Got it. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it. Got
yeah,
it. Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
And
Got it.
so he could sit up tall, but his knee was slightly bent, and so he just
Yes. Yes.
was going to be working on kind of lowering the knee, pulling the
Yep.
foot back, and coming up again. And I said, "You're already in this position to do the Theragun, so you just do this afterwards. So
Yes.
just habit stack those two together because." He really wasn't going to stop and do that like on his own, but he does do the Theragun religiously every night because he likes it.
And,
And
and
so we just added we just added that neural tension stretch to
and so
with
did
that.
you do it with his right leg on the floor and the left leg on the bed?
No, the right leg because it's the right leg that was the
Right
time.
leg is on the bed.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
want
with
to
it out straight.
sure.
Hmm.
Got it. Okay.
So, and that's kind of where we are. He's going to have an MRI in another few weeks, and but he's feeling more hopeful about his ability to move around, and he's understanding what's happening with his legs now,
Yep.
and he's able to, he's just not blowing through things and blowing it off and just saying, oh, it hurts. He's really
Yeah.
trying to do things to help himself and help his coordination. And his walking is so much better. He said,
Is he
even
more
if it
centered?
hurts, I feel like I'm doing better.
Yeah, yeah. Is he more centered and everything? I'm
More
assuming he is.
centered. That
Yeah.
was the biggest thing, more
Yeah.
centered. And I had him stand on each leg, and it looks, he's able to control that pelvis pretty
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. That's good.
So I told him, I said, just continue it. You like it,
Yeah.
I said, the only thing is if you're gonna go walk for you're not a shopping kind of guy, so if you have to go and do that stuff, just grab your stick and take it with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to go to the grocery store. So, oh
Yeah.
well, just grab it and take it with you. Like, we're going to get into the whole pain science thing. He figured it out. He goes, I didn't want to go. It's probably why my knee hurt. Like,
And you think about it though, because he was on a cane, even if it was on the wrong side, the
Mhm.
region of our bodies where we offload weight is a lot of our is the thorax, right? And
Yeah.
and if you've got dysfunction there from like offloading one side, it's going to possibly create neural tensions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because of the
Oh,
nervous
he's
system.
got it in his arms too, and
Yeah, and a
everywhere else.
history of
So,
radiculopathy, arm and leg.
yep. So
Bad.
we'll be working on neural tension as we move forward, and we'll get into my next plan when I see him again is to get him going on some stuff for his thorax
Yeah.
and start
Yeah.
getting that decompressed and moving a little bit better. I
Yeah.
wanted to see what was just going to happen first,
Yeah.
and this is somebody who's not going to stop climbing up and down ladders and isn't going to stop, doing the things and shoring up his camp house and getting ready for hunting season and, all the other stuff.
Yeah. And
He's not doing the heavy labor work right now.
I think there's a lot to be said because he's not coming in every week, right? And so,
Right.
if you see somebody once a month, that does change things up a bit in terms of your priorities,
Mm-hmm.
because there's going to be time, and I'm learning this more and more, or recognizing this more and more with people who have busy travel schedules, at least in my population in the fall. You see them once a month, once every few weeks. It does change how you structure your treatment session and what we can go back to our PT school days, our short-term goals and long-term goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be different, I believe, than if you're going to see somebody every week. And you know, the thorax obviously is a key piece, but did you need to address it at the beginning? No, not really. I mean, you needed to give him self-efficacy and strategies that he could work himself and get the buy-in, right? And just get the buy-in because he's crossing state country lines here. Right?
Yeah, and you think about the other part of it, the one thing that would have been cool to have done, and so for all of you out there listening, when we talk about what do we treat first,
Yeah.
there was all of me that was thinking, "Oh, I really wanna, get into that thorax, but I gotta keep things relevant today." What
Mhm.
would have been interesting would have been to go and try to decompress the thorax and see if it made things worse or if it made things better.
Yes, yes,
So,
exactly. Stand behind him
but I
because
knew he wasn't gonna go anywhere where he could, like, figure that out and do it. It wasn't just, I wanted to get something, and I was, it turned out that, my approach of just doing a little manual therapy on the back to help a little bit of the overflow inhibition got him moving in a little bit better direction, and so I was able to capitalize that and get it going, but
yeah, and just shifting the cane to the left hand, that
mhm,
will redistribute, oh my Lord, the weight from the head to the toe, and that includes the thorax. So see how much you can get by literally just switching hands, and
mhm,
then if there's any sort of dysfunction left in the thorax, whether it's AP or lateral, you treat that, right?
mhm.
You treat that. But what I find interesting, I was just looking at the history, is that he's had a history of radiculopathy and neural like sciatica and things like that. And even I will say the left elbow, because I think,
Yep,
epicondylitis is neural tension all the way, right? And so he
mhm,
has a history of neural issues in his history, basically. And you talk about our priority list, right? Neural tension is on the top of that list, right? There are acts as well, knee, obviously, because his pain generator for maybe it wasn't, but do you need to go about treating the knee with something like that? I mean, not with this history. And I think that for the listeners, it's really great to look at the history and say there's a lot of neural tension here. Okay. And so
mhm.
what can I do that's going to give me the most bang for my buck right now that's going to last him 30 days? Right?
Exactly. Yep, that he'll be able to see relevance in, and
Exactly.
he'll be able to do, and what we can habit stack to the things he's already doing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be the kind of person that is gonna pick and choose the things that give him the best bang for his buck.
Mm-hmm.
Now he know like, his go-to thing, like he said, is the monster walks. Those help the most,
Interesting.
because it allows him to bring his feet apart, slightly relax his knees, put the TheraBand around his legs, and he can balance easier and it centers him, and
Yeah.
he probably feels like he has more, because I asked him, I said, what do you like about it? And he goes, it's just easy to do. So
Oh,
to
see,
me, that's a cool thing. He can control himself better and it doesn't hurt. So it
yeah.
gets him out of that kind of, it gets him out of whatever chronic posturing is in. It resets him pretty nicely, and then
Mm-hmm.
he's able to move on.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And it
don't,
puts them in a wider base of support, which
yeah,
is
I
take
said,
offloads,
don't lose that.
thorax, nervous system, and again, his knees is in a slight bit of flexion.
Yeah.
So you almost wonder, Susan, like because people who have, quote unquote, you know, knees that are, going down the total knee replacement route, they tend to stand with their knee in flexion.
Hmm.
It's really, I'm just throwing this out there for the listeners. Is it
He
really
doesn't.
a knee at this point? Or is it maybe some neural tension? I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Right.
It definitely is part of that, because how many of them are still so tight after they have their knee replaced?
Totally.
So it helps the joint piece of it, but we still have to address the other pieces, that are there. And
Hmm.
most people aren't terribly flexible when they have, and a part of it is because of the chronic posturing. It hurts. The thing that I gave was like, the way you're walking now is like you're walking into a haunted house.
Hmm.
Like that your toes are curled, your feet are stiff,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
always over on the one side, kind of like, are something's gonna pop up at you on the left. I said, that's kind of what's
Mm,
happening there.
interesting.
And I said, so what we want to do is like have you just walk through something that makes you happy. Like you would be
Hmm.
relaxed, your feet would be loose, you'd be going side to side, you'd be looking around both ways. And it's just, I said, it's just a chronic posturing that's gotten set up because of this timeline.
Yeah, it's this
And so,
dominant.
which is
Yeah.
why I asked all of these questions that, of course, he didn't think were relevant in the beginning, but when he can see the whole picture, then
Mhm.
all of a sudden it makes a lot of sense to them. It's like, you came by this honestly.
Yeah,
You didn't, this is just the way that, we compensate till we don't.
that's correct. Until we lose options.
Mhm.
Till we reach a buckle point. So awesome. Great story. I love
Okay,
this. I love
fun.
this story. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, that was great. It's interesting. I don't see, I've had so many patients who've had quote unquote failed total knee
yeah,
replacements where they're still not great. I mean, yeah, they're more functional, but their expectations were not met
right.
post-operatively.
Well, I
And
think the other thing too is that I didn't do any knee exercises.
exactly.
Why am I going to do knee exercises? I needed to see. I helped him do things that were going to change his chronic posturing, which was really leading him to
Yeah,
the issue with his knee. Now, is it too late for the joint? I don't know. But is he going to be served better
yeah,
because he can center himself and do things differently and have softer feet and hopefully get the neural tension out?
yeah,
That when he finally concedes or decides that that's the way to go,
yeah,
my hope is that he's going to be able to kind of hit the ground running afterwards, and feel so much better because the joint issue might be taken care of, but we've gotten the neural tension better, and he's not going to be chronically over on the right side and doing all of these things that led up to it in the first place. It's like in pelvic health when we have somebody who has their rectal lining coming down off of their rectum and out, because of straining, yeah, you can go in and surgically repair the enterocyl, but if they don't stop straining, it's just going to happen again,
yeah.
right?
Just
So
putting a
it's the same
band-aid on
thing.
it.
Like, why
Yeah.
not have their body have the best chance to really right itself? And whatever needs to happen for the joint at that point, it's going to be so much more, I believe, so much more successful.
Yeah, because the environment is better. His overall environment. You change
Yeah,
the environment
right,
first.
right,
Awesome.
exactly.
Well,
Okay.
thank you, Susan. Well, we look forward to seeing everybody on our next episode. And once again, oh, Susan, before I forget, we've been getting a lot of emails from patients or from physical therapists who have complicated patients. And so it's really hard for Susan and I to answer those emails and do your request justice. So if anybody has a problem patient they want to email us on, consider being on our podcast
Yes.
because it'll be much easier to solve a problem on the fly versus going back and forth on email. So we encourage you all to reach out, but it's easier for us just to do this and go back and forth versus going back and forth on email because it's quite difficult for Susan and I to do that and do it justice.
Yep.
So come on the podcast. We'd love to have you.
Yep.
Alrighty, we'll see you
We'd
on the
love
next
to have you come and talk about a client of yours.
Yes, exactly. That's what we do best. Susan
Mhm.
and I do this best. And so we're good at doing it on the fly. So please email us to get on the podcast.
Okay. All right, everybody,
Next
take care
episode. Bye.
and thank you.